Stat sticks are a crucial part of some Warframe loadouts, yet the game makes very little attempt to alert you to this. Unlike modding for strength, which can give you a single-digit multiplier to your ability damage in all but extreme cases, stat sticks are an enormous boost to output. Which begs the question, what even is a stat stick and how do you do it right? I'm Nick Engineer, let's solve a practical problem. A stat stick is a weapon that is modded for not the weapon itself, but instead to buff a Warframe ability. This is distinct from exalted weapons like Valkyr's Talons or Dante's Noctua, because those you mod specifically to use them as weapons. Stat sticks can be used for Ash, Atlas, Excalibur, GARA, KHORA and TITANIA, with special mention to INAROS, BARUUK and MESA. To give an example of how this works, take GARA here using her Shattered Lash ability. With no mods on GARA or her weapon, the ability states that it deals 800 damage, and to no one's surprise, that's what she actually does. But if we head to the arsenal and apply one mod, Prime Pressure Point, then return to the very same enemy, the damage changes. It's now 2120 damage, a 165% increase. There are various mods and features which interact with these stat stick abilities, sometimes referred to as pseudo-exalted, but each of them operates differently. The spread of possible features are pure damage, like Pressure Point and Arcane Fury, Condition Overload, distinct from other pure damage mods as it is conditional on status effects, elements like Fever Strike and Melee Exposure, Progenitor bonuses also apply here, though they multiply with the rest of the damage rather than adding to other elements, making them much more powerful. Physical mods also apply here, but only to the portion of damage they match. Critical buffs like True Steel and Organ Shatter, status chance buffs like Melee Prowess, attack speed like with Fury, faction buffs like Smite Grenier, finisher buffs like Covert Lethality, combo gain like True Punishment to gain more combo per ability hit, finally the combo multiplier, giving a 25% bonus to damage per multiplier above 1 times on eligible weapons. This means a max of 275% on normal weapons or 300% from Venka Prime. Crucially, you cannot use any form of combo pausing with a stat stick or your combo will be entirely reset. This means the Zoris, Tenet Livia and Tenet Grigori all should not be used. For the Anku, Akenbrunt or Furax, avoid using their combo pausing perks in the Incarnate upgrades. Some features like range mods and status damage mods never benefit stat stick abilities. So let's walk through each ability, what it can benefit from, and how to set up a stat stick at both low tier and high tier play. For the lower tier, that's using mods and features only accessible prior to the new war quest, and then under the assumption you've not got a well invested operator. The higher tier aims to get the most value possible out of a given ability. Seeing as we've already begun to look at GARA, we'll start there. GARA's Shattered Lash ability is the simplest of the proper stat stick abilities. It is bimodal, allowing you to either tap cast for a jabbing puncture hit, or hold cast to make a sweeping slash hit. You can swap these casts around in their settings using invert tap hold abilities. Shattered Lash is affected by pure damage bonuses, element bonuses, melee combo multiplier, critical bonuses and status chance bonuses. Everything else, including attack speed, range, faction damage, finisher damage, status damage and combo gain chance, does not function on GARA's stat stick. While critical and status chance bonuses do apply to Shattered Lash, it has an innate 0% status chance, 0% critical chance and 1 times critical multiplier. In ordinary circumstances, this makes it unable to actually benefit from critical and status chance mods. However, there are ways to boost the values. Flat critical bonuses such as Arcane Avenger's 45% critical chance bonus can enable critical hits on Shattered Lash. This would need to be coupled with a critical damage mod to actually do anything other than change the colour of some hits though. Much more powerful are the benefits unlocked in some Incarnate adapted weapons. These are available only after unlocking Seal Path, which itself requires completion of all main story quests up to Whispers in the Walls. The base bonuses applied to some of these melee weapons will also apply to the base value of stat sticked abilities. For example, the Magistrar Incarnate can offer plus 16% critical chance and plus 1 times critical damage, allowing Shattered Lash to scale from those improved values and actually get some value from critical modding. So then for actual usage, a GARA stat stick for players yet to complete the new war can be achieved with a setup like this. We've got a solid mix of pure damage and elemental damage, plus a slash mod on the assumption you'd only be using the superior slashing attack of Shattered Lash. For the elements chosen, match it to the weakness of the faction you're facing, as you won't be applying status effects. Body count makes combo last a lot longer, which is very useful if you have yet to unlock the Naramon focus call, specifically the power spike passive effect. Quickening is the odd one out here. The attack speed and combo gain don't affect the ability directly, but it does make it quicker to build or rebuild combo for GARA. I've specifically put this on the Redeemer Prime as it's a gunblade firing multiple projectiles at a distance for ranged rapid combo generation and sustain. If you don't have the Prime, normal is fine, or you can put it onto your choice of a more standard melee weapon, including ones with a progenitor bonus. At full combo and base strength, this will make Shattered Lash deal more than 60,000 damage to each enemy, a massive improvement from the 800 of the base ability. For a full power setup, I recommend the Magister Incarnon. Importantly, it has to be the Magister, not the Sancti Magister, due to the much greater stat buffs it provides. With the critical parallel perk active for both critical chance and critical damage, this setup delivers a lot more power at full combo. Getting to that combo may prove to be a bit of work as GARA doesn't generate combo, for which you can swap out True Steel for quickening for both faster attack speed and more combo gain. Alternatively, use the Router Shotgun to gain combo from its attacks, sparing you the use of your melee. What can really explode the power here is to also use the Operator Arcane Magus Aggress. On swapping from Operator to Warframe by making a melee attack, the Arcane grants up to a 300% critical damage bonus for the next 4 melee hits. This bonus applies to heavy blades and, despite not being listed, hammers. Rather than consuming those 4 hits and losing the bonus through normal attacks though, attacks with Shattered Lash does not consume the perk, using the critical boost indefinitely. When you inevitably have to spend time recovering your combo, you'll then need to reapply this perk, which has a 20-second cooldown, but otherwise it's free critical damage. If you don't want to spend time building up combo, you can instead use this setup here, built around initial combo and non-conditional crit modding. This is only slightly stronger than the setup on the Redeemer, except with no combo building required to get that strength. GARA's Shattered Lash isn't the most powerful ability on its own, but combos very strongly with a Mass Vitrify to turn it into a giant explosion. Similar to Shattered Lash is Excalibur's Slash Dash, utilising all the same stat stick buffs. The biggest difference is that Slash Dash generates combo with its own hit, and can generate a lot more with the Surging Dash augment. Because of that, you can mod your melee just as a stat stick, with no intent to hit enemies with it. Once again, for a lower tier setup, we can use pure damage, plenty of elemental modding, and combo duration to prevent it dropping out between castle rooms. Crucially, Excalibur's stat stick melee only applies while Exalted Blade isn't active. While active, the mods on Exalted Blade become the stat stick for Slash Dash, so do make sure you take that into account when choosing how to mod and use either weapon. Just as with GARA, Excalibur can use the Magister Incarnon for full power, including use of Magus Aggress on Operator. Again, no modding for combo generation is needed, as Slash Dash will have that covered. Then there's Atlas, whose first ability Landslide also uses a stat stick just like Excalibur. In this case, Atlas uses Impact rather than Slash, has an AoE, and actually has innate critical and status stats, sadly both of which are rather poor. As a result, he uses the same approach as Excalibur, benefiting from Incarnon boosts where available. For Atlas, you will need to swap the Slash mod out for Impact on the low tier build for type matching reasons. Of particular note, damaging status effects delivered by Landslide do not use your stat stick's elemental mods, making the effect much weaker than you might expect. For this reason, it's best to stick to direct damage on Atlas. Because Atlas has a built-in 2x critical multiplier, you can choose to instead use the Ceramic Dagger Incarnon. While this doesn't buff critical multiplier and cannot benefit from Magus Aggress, it does come with nearly twice the critical chance Incarnon perk and enables an overwhelmingly higher initial combo. This allows you to use a focus call other than Naramon, as running out of combo isn't such a loss for this weapon. Then we have KHORA, whose first ability Whipclaw is an exceptionally powerful stat stick ability. Unlike GARA and Excalibur's 0% stats, or Atlas with 5%, KHORA's Whipclaw has a base 25% critical chance and status chance on top of the 2x critical multiplier. As she is able to use the same pure damage, element, crit, status chance and combo mod options as the others, she can lean into a hybrid crit and status approach to great effect. For a low tier build, that looks like this. I've gone for a heat setup as it substantially buffs the rate of landing damaging status effects, rather than impact or puncture, as well as dealing more direct damage. This beats out a slash-based approach in the majority of circumstances. Body count has been replaced with drifting contact for combo duration, as it also offers status chance. On a high tier approach, you may have already guessed my recommendation is the Magister Incarnon. The setup is almost identical to the others, except she is better served by Weeping Wounds instead of True Steel or Quickening. The status chance will boost her damage yet further. Either run Viral or Magnetic for the damage boosting status, or run Gas for the clouds of damage it leaves behind. Of the remaining stat stick frames, they don't follow the same pattern as Atlas, Excalibur, GARA and KHORA. INAROS is the least concerned by stat sticks. His Sandstorm ability, combined with the elemental Sandstorm augment, cares only about one thing: damage types. Whatever damage types and weighting you have on your melee weapon determines what status effects he applies with Sandstorm. As the damage from these status effects is always low, your best choice will be support effects such as Viral or Magnetic. Likewise, BARUUK has a very narrow concern. When using BARUUK's exalted weapon, Desert Wind, it struggles to build its own combo due to the wind waves not being counted. As a result, BARUUK can really benefit from Gladiator mods being on your normal melee weapon. Obtain the combo on your normal melee, then switch to Desert Wind to enjoy the critical chance benefits. You can do this for all exalted melees, they're just not as stuck for combo generation as BARUUK is. Still, a melee setup like this, with the sole purpose of generating and retaining combo, especially if combined with Naramon for gradual decay, is a huge boon to exalted melee attacks. Just don't heavy attack with the exalted, or the bonus will break. While we're talking about exalted melees, we should then address the stat stick for Titania. I don't mean modding your main melee weapon to enhance Titania's exalted melee this time. No, instead, you can mod Titania's exalted melee, Duata, to be a stat stick for the Razorflies that surround her. Their damage is uniquely affected by condition overload, as well as elements, crits, attack speed, and faction mods. Almost no other stat stick behaves in this way. In fact, it appears as if Razorflies are using the old version of condition overload. When I say old, I mean years old, where it used to multiply its effect with every additional status effect. With no status procs on an enemy, the Razorflies do very little real damage, especially to high tank targets. Give the target just a few status effects, and the damage ramps up to incredible levels. Only with condition overload can you get this level of effect. As Razorflies do not apply status procs of their own, they'll need support to deliver this damage in addition to the stat stick. Thankfully, that support can be as simple as using Dex Pixia, shooting the target your Razorflies are attacking. There's no higher tier version of this stat stick, as the weapon choice and modding is very restricted. Up next, we have Ash. I've talked about Ash at length already in a previous guide specifically for his Bladestorm ability, but we can still recap here. Bladestorm itself is affected by your combo multiplier and combo gain mods, the damage from your Steel Charge aura, as well as a limited bonus from attack speed. Otherwise, the ability damage you see pop up is barely affected by the stat stick. However, Bladestorm's visible damage is not the true king here, though it is good. Bladestorm's hits also have a chance to deliver additional invisible hits, shadow finishes if you will, that scale entirely differently. These hits are ordinary finisher attacks delivered using your equipped melee weapon using the mods on it. This makes it affected by pure damage, elements, critical hits, faction damage, and finisher buffs. Do be aware that crits scale additively with the stealth bonus of up to 700% extra damage, making crits low value here. Properly scaled, you can deal so much damage in one go that this level 195 Steel Path Heavy Gunner dies before any ability damage can even reach it, as the shadow finisher kills it first. When it dies this way, the game doesn't even credit you with damage done or a kill made. For a mid-tier approach, I'd recommend using the Karist Prime. This dagger punches surprisingly hard, as well as enabling the use of the Covert Lethality mod. Normal Karist is acceptable if you can't get hold of the Prime. Almost none of this stat stick is focused on supporting the ability damage, but instead that very powerful shadow finisher damage, which will tear through a lot of enemies. Quickening here ensures the animation speed of the shadow clones is at a reasonable pace, but any more attack speed than that will not really help. Once you have access to Incarnons, the Inadem is the top pick. Set up using the perks for additional attack speed and finisher damage, the modding is almost the same. We've swapped out Quickening as the evolution perk for attack speed now has that covered, opening up even more elemental damage. For the Arcane, while I've gone for melee exposure, further buffing the shadow hit, you can instead use Melee Crescendo for initial combo to ensure the ability damage is as high as it can be. Just be aware, the combo doesn't benefit your shadow hits. The Tennokai mod is entirely optional, there to allow you to use normal melee into heavy attacks for activating Incarnate mode without losing your combo. Finally, we have something for exalted secondary weapons, most notably MESA's Peacemakers. Peacemakers don't key off most weapon modding using their own mods, but there are a couple buffs you can apply to them in a roundabout way. Firstly, you can use the Furex with the mod Amalgam Furex Body Count. This mod on its own will increase the fire rate of Peacemaker and other secondaries by 45%. Secondly, you can use the Arcane Secondary Outburst on your normal secondary weapon. On switching to your normal secondary, it will consume all your existing melee combo and turn that into a 30-second buff to critical chance and critical damage for your secondaries, including Peacemaker. You can mod the Furex with its unique mod, build combo, then switch to your secondary. With that, activate Peacemaker to unleash a crit and fire rate boosted barrage for up to 30 seconds before you need to rebuild your combo. Alternatively, you can mod a weapon around initial combo, like the Ceramic Dagger. Get your initial combo, switch to secondary, and again get 30 seconds of crit boosted damage. You don't get the fire rate boost this way, but you also don't need to spend time regaining the combo. The secondary, as it's just been used as a vehicle for secondary outburst, you could make it into a primer to support your primary if using the Ceramic Dagger's initial combo. Otherwise, lean into making it a crit weapon for if you run out of energy on MESA. That choice is completely open to your preference of loadout. So whether you're smashing with Atlas or cutting with GARA, these setups should have you indulging in their full power. There are plenty of weapon and ability interactions in Warframe, like the various shenanigans around the Kuva Sobek, which I covered in its own guide. Stat sticks, however, are unique for providing buffs without really having to use the weapon itself as a weapon. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and a big thank you to all the Patreon supporters on this channel. That's all from me for now, so as always, build sticks, buff stats, and fight well, Tenno.